only that. So first this conference, one of a kind, the first of its kind in Dalit and Adivasi Human Rights Congress. So what are your views on that? Is it a step towards further, such joining of forces? So is it? Do you think it's a positive step? How do you?
To be very honest, when I first heard about this National Dalit Adivasi Women's Congress, I was excited, thinking that, well, I think it, as you rightly said, for the first time ever, that such kind of a group coming together. And I was also wondering what really would come out from this process. Nevertheless, I was excited, one, because I knew that I'm going to meet many like-minded women, probably facing similar challenges, confronting the same problems, and perhaps each of them coming with some experience of their own. And maybe that would be a really good space to learn and share, and of course meet. That was what I had in my mind. And my little bit areas which I was little not really sure of, was that whether it would remain as an academic discourse where presentations or paper presentations would be done, and how can we really link it up to the kind of work that I am involved with sort of actually working on the field and trying to build new models or whatever. So, but as the 2 days have gone now, and looking back at it, I really felt that to me this process brought some kind of inspiration and motivation back to me. I was telling some of the other younger friends, that this has been such an inspiration, and they were saying that no, you have been such an inspiration, or your work has been such an inspiration. So when I heard that, and I was really thinking that somehow we have been able to derive strength from each other, and be a source of inspiration, one. The second aspect was that usually for me, when I go for such conferences or meetings of such large gatherings, I really mostly tend to be a bit more reserved. I don't really come out so much, but here, I don't know, I felt it was so different, because I suddenly felt that I'm in the midst of all our women, so that sense of community and that sense of solidarity coming together because of the experiences, I think. And so it was a non-threatening space for sure. There was nobody who was like somebody super expert and somebody not. So I think it was a beautiful place of learning, and I definitely see it as a very positive step, because I'm really going back feeling so much more rejuvenated and energized from this process. So it's good, but as somebody said, that this is just the beginning. Now we really need to see how all these different people coming with different backgrounds, different areas of skill and expertise and knowledge, if we are able to bring it all together, it would be something amazingly powerful. So I think we really need to start working on the next steps of this Congress.
You said the historic significance is not yet fully absorbed by all of us, I think.
Yes.
And apart from that, one point you made was very significant, because Vinay Kamble was also making the same point about the surveilling gaze of the upper caste being very absent here, and there seems to be a shared sense of community.
Very true.
So, how did we arrive at such a situation where all spaces seem to be so dominated by the upper caste, and we have allowed them to, not being able to build such spaces until now, wherein we are free of this kind of surveillance. I mean, even civil society, even the voluntary sector you are in, they seem to be surveilled to a great extent by the upper caste. How did this come to pass, and how was it, despite the growing strength of Dalit and Adivasi middle class, even the tiny middle class? This is again happening again and again, and it has grown into a way. Parallelly, we are also trying to find this our own spaces. So how do this event can be seen as a culmination of decades of effort actually.
Absolutely.
So how do the historicity of it, can you talk about it a little, the sense of history it conveys?
Yes, from my experience in the circles that I have been also engaging, there are two things. One, as a woman, is many of the circles, many of these kind of symposiums and gatherings, probably I would end up being the one or the two women in that particular group. So just being a minority woman in a large group of men itself would kind of take a step back, retracting, thinking twice, or whatever, because of just that the dominant male itself. Now compare that to a similar situation maybe with a larger women's group who are coming with their own dominant identity, which gives them another sense of power in their speech, in their body language, in the way they conduct themselves, in the kind of expressions and everything. That also makes a similar thing for us, and that we have to kind of step back, retract ourselves. But that we did not find in this 2 days process. That's why I said that it was non-threatening. And you refer to the voluntary sector and the civil society that you mentioned. You see all the institutions, whatever these organizations are, these NGOs and international INGOs that we call them, research institutions, all of them are led by dominant caste people, that men and women also. So obviously under that kind of leadership, the money is with them. The program strategies that they make, the 5-year plans, 10 years plans, or the kind of initiatives that they take, all come with this background, no? Because ultimately your ideological standpoint and your worldviews, your political perspective then is determining everything that you do through your institutions and organizations. And that has been a fact. Studies have been done now to say that where the Dalit, Adivasi and minority women leadership in NGO sector, smaller organizations, absolutely dismal. We would probably remain as animator or a program executive, program officer level. Now we are now coming up more into middle and senior management positions within the NGO sector, but in the leadership, it's not there. So I think the history of this whole sector that you're seeing has been definitely upper caste men and women who have dominated that scene, and that's why today I guess we are in this situation where we are actually saying that this is one huge step that we have taken.
But it's only one conference.
Yes, it is just one conference.
And you have also seen what recently happened in Haryana, and you are also talking about the field just a while ago. So what will you take back from here, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, the Dalit and Adivasi Women's Congress, to the women of Haryana at large and to Dabra? What do you think, what will change, or what could have, what has happened here, in what way could it affect those people?
Yeah, it's an important question that you have raised, and it always also plays on my mind. And I was happy to see our activists and young Dalit women who led the Yatra late last year. They were also here and participated, at a full level in a congress like this, which was really good. I just would say that the challenges that we are facing in Haryana are manifold. Even 3 months have passed now. We are still only trying to move the cases to legal process, to the trials and everything. I think that struggle on the ground is one area. But the fact that this kind of a space has given much wider exposure to us and to the other younger Dalit women activists in Haryana, So they know that their fight in Haryana is not just their own, that there are struggles all across. There are women just like them who are emerging as leaders, and that there's a possibility for them to now take up full leadership and face these challenges. So for sure it has been a good learning experience for me and for all the other women activists for Haryana. Secondly, this has also kind of given us kind of associations with other people. Like so many people presented papers, researchers who have done, younger students who are doing their PhDs, who are actually wanting to get into research work. Now, for example, we have been thinking that we need to do a good proper quality study on sexual violence on Dalit women and their barriers to justice, for example. Now, I could see here that there would be many young women who could probably take up that kind of research for us. We have been challenging at different places using data. That is again dependent on the National Crime Records Bureau and maybe another one study which we had done. There is a need for us to take up new research areas, and I'm sure like groups like students from Tata Institute and other research institutions which were here, they can be also roped in. I met some of the other panelists and also other participants from Jamia Millia Islamia, from JNU, from DU, and they all have actually offered to come to our office, get involved with fact findings. What can they contribute for the advocacy work. So for sure, I don't see this as a total, something just get washed out. I think now that we have built these links together, we have to see how we can take it to the follow-up work of the Haryana rape survivors.
Haryana is also on top of our mind, not just Delhi. So it's still on the top of our mind. So I remember what you said on social media during the Haryana period, how horrible events were and how courageous the girls in the Yatra was. Could you recount for us those experiences from Haryana?
For the Yatra, so actually the Yatra, as you know, was a 10-day long Yatra where we covered about 9 districts and then we met families and the survivors themselves. One thing is that we set out to see how we could build a larger collective strength within Haryana, meet these survivors and their families, and how can we take up those cases. But apart from that, what we came across was like every single day different kind of atrocities were coming to us, literally coming to us. We would wake up in the morning and sometimes we would find people outside the door in the morning. They have heard or they have seen in the paper that Yatra is coming like this, and they're talking about Dalit issues, violence against Dalits, and they actually came looking for us. I was just struck by that, because if we had not gone there, probably nobody would have heard of these cases, and it just been gone. So we actually included all those cases also into the petitions that we filed with the district administration. Heinous crimes, like we mentioned, like a 70-year-old man who was beaten up, his eyes were pulled out. Interestingly, there were Jat women in that kind of a fight that they had in the village. They urinated in his mouth, an old man. So I mean, this kind of horrifying cases which probably would have never come out at all. We came across a family that in Fatehpur who was actually, believe it or not, 6 months they were protesting outside the DC office all by themselves. There was no movement to help them, no NGO, no activists, no nothing. They themselves have been sitting there claiming that, our house was burned down, our legs were chopped, the wife was beaten, and what is it that the district administration would offer them. I always was telling all my colleagues, like, I don't think any of us, including me, would have had the strength to take that kind of struggle single-handedly. that actually reminded me of the amazing resilience and struggle that our communities everywhere are actually struggling all alone, and what is it, that little role that you and I can play in actually supporting that struggle. We apart from the rape cases that were reported in the newspapers, there were so many other cases also which came to us during the time of the yatra. The yatra per se, we were able to meet families, we had awareness programs, we had night meetings in the communities, we shared about the SCST Prevention of Atrocities Act, we spoke about how there are legal mechanisms, and we also had local leaders coming together in a sense that there are other groups who are with you in this struggle. You are not alone. That kind of a building that solidarity happened. We had meetings with all the district commissioners in all the districts. We filed a petition. We had meetings with the administration and the survivors themselves, so they actually were able to talk and put forward their demands. Assurances were made, but nothing much they have done. Compensations have been given. Literally it's like the system, the entire system, how they can just get away, you know. I have been saying this, how impunity is just going unchallenged, enjoyed by a few. They feel that, acha, rape hua hai, this is the money, take it and get lost. That's the whole mindset that is there. Or no, there's no money for this, we don't have budget for this, we don't have. That's the attitude, that violence or atrocity has happened, a rape, a gang rape has happened, take this money, go away. So with that kind of a mindset and attitude within the entire system, that's why I think the challenges are becoming much more. We have tried to get Supreme Court case. We have put in all these cases in the Supreme Court. We don't know, still the hearing has not yet come. We have been working closely with the families that, you know, we should keep up the legal process. In the Kalsi case, we have pushed for a CBI inquiry into that case, because it was the mother also was found murdered, so that case has been followed up. And then we have been trying to see we could get a hostel facility for the children and a job for the father himself. So in each case differently we have been trying to support, but definitely I feel that the movements and the groups within Haryana, now I think that process really needs to be strengthened, and particularly the students groups, the younger women, how we can get them involved into this, so that it's not that somebody from Delhi is going there or somebody from some other state is going there. Their own state level strong movement will emerge now.
You touched upon this violence against Dalits and the more particular heinous violence against Dalit women. There has been some recent article by Mr. Teltumde wherein he saw neoliberalism as a cause of this increased violence. But we studied the figures somewhat. The same article had quoted. I found that actually the rate of increase was more during the pre-liberalization period, say from 1971 to 1991. So 1991 to 2011, the increase was 131%, which is a kind of normal rate of increase in violence or crime rate. The 1971 to 1991, the increase was over 340%. So the larger causes are not even understood by the most analysis now. So there is a lack of data, of course, a huge lack of data. But NCDHR has been covering that up in a remarkable job of bringing us data. it is gone for the last 1 decade or so. Beyond all this, what do you see as primarily the causes apart from the caste and all that?
See, definitely I agree with you that data is what we have is unreliable. Honestly, I cannot believe the data that NCRB is putting up year after year. And also perhaps one of the reason that the numbers are showing up higher is also because cases probably are only now getting registered and reported and registered and then perhaps getting counted, which was not happening earlier in the period that you mentioned. So that is probably one of the reasons why it is showing up as more. Secondly, people have been talking about this another aspect of the whole backlash violence, that growing assertion has kind of brought this kind of a backlash violence, and also that if there is no atrocity reported from certain of these areas, that means it is a completely silenced or snuffed out the resistance. So that's why that those cases are not coming out. That has also been another area. From what I have seen, like our earlier work with Dalit women sarpanches and also with these cases, there is this definitely this trend of backlash violence, especially when we look at the Dalit women sarpanches after being elected and coming to some position of power. There is a very severe violence on them. So I would go with this thing of definitely that backlash violence is increasing. Assertion has brought about greater violence, and Haryana also, as you said, probably girls were not going out, so the mobility has also probably brought out a greater risk. But I really honestly I don't know, I can't really say, because these crimes against Dalits have been there for forever almost. So I just see only probably the pattern, the location, the nature of the crimes are probably now changing from what I see.